Welcome to Rooted and Rising Healing. I'm your host, Hali, and this space is for women rebuilding after betrayal. Here we make sense of what happened, find truth again, and reconnect with who you really are beyond the pain. Whether you're staying, leaving, or still in the middle, your story matters. Together, we'll explore truth, clarity, and the quiet courage it takes to rise from the wreckage of what was into the wholeness of who you're becoming. You're safe to be here. In the messy middle, in the rebuilding, and in the rising. Let's begin. If you're a woman healing from betrayal trauma and craving space to breathe, regulate, and reconnect with yourself, I want to share a few upcoming healing experiences that you might want to explore. I help facilitate these intensives and retreats alongside some of my most trusted colleagues. They're small, trauma-informed settings designed really to support your nervous system and not overwhelm it. March 17th through the 20th is our Betrayal Trauma Intensive. May 5th through the 8th is a Somatic Healing Intensive. Both of those are held in Spanish Fork, Utah. And July 20th through the 27th, we're hosting the Rise, Renew, Restore Retreat in Costa Rica. And there's just a few spots still available. You can learn more about all of these upcoming events in the show notes. And remember that you don't have to rush your healing and you don't have to do it alone. So many women that I work with tell me the same thing. I don't even know what I need anymore. And if that's true for you today, that's what we're going to talk about and why. This isn't because you're broken. It's because betrayal really pulls a woman out of your body, out of your intuition, out of that self-connection. And it, in a sense, forces us into hyper-monitoring, that hypervigilance, sometimes self-abandonment, and really just survival mode. So today we're going to talk about why that happens, why it makes sense, and how you can just start to gently come back to yourself. Betrayal trauma does something specific to your nervous system. And when that happens, you stop really asking, what do I feel? What do I need? And what do I want? And instead of asking those things, it's common to start going to, what is he doing? Is he lying? Is he safe? What's about to happen? What's happening over there? This isn't a sign of emotional weakness. It's actual neurobiological survival. And in this, your body learned that my safety depends on monitoring somebody else. When that happens, we become outward focused instead of inward focused. And in a sense, our inner world can go quiet. A lot of times, well-meaning people can say, just listen to your intuition. But when you've been betrayed, that's not as easy as it sounds, because your body is flooded with all these threat signals. And your amygdala is on hyperactivity and can sometimes feel like a constant buzzing underneath the surface. But your body has all these threat signals and you're checking your environment for, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? That can cause your intuition to feel confusing, and a lot of times can even cause a lot of emotional swings, sometimes intense emotional swings that aren't comfortable and that can be confusing for you and other people around you as well. Your mind is always scanning. And that isn't actually intuition. That's a traumatized nervous system that's trying to protect you. So if you feel indecisive, or you feel numb, or you feel overwhelmed, or you feel stuck or paralyzed, or like you can't trust yourself, that doesn't actually mean that you've lost yourself. It means that your system hasn't been safe enough to come back online yet. And so we don't actually need to start in the mind, which can be so hard to grasp. I am the first one to admit that's not what I wanted to hear. I really just wanted a logical explanation and a 10-step process to get out of the pain. It's not that verbally processing things is a bad thing. We need to make sense of that too. And we need a safe place to talk through things. But the sooner you can start moving into your body when you're dysregulated and really checking in with what your system needs, what's it asking for? Is it asking for safety, predictability, a slowing down? Do you need to find some validation from somewhere? Containment? Do you need rest? And tuning into that can be more important before we can ever get to boundaries or decisions about what's the right thing to do in the relationship, about the future, for sure, before forgiveness or sexuality, all of that. You can't know what you want in a relationship until your body knows that it's not in danger. And this can be tricky because sometimes we can put that responsibility on our spouse. That could be true for the relationship repair. If your spouse is not safe emotionally, psychologically, physically, then you have the right and the responsibility to create that safety and create that environment where you have the ability and the possibility even to slow down and start to tune into your body. It's really difficult to do that when there's constant re-traumatization happening. So you might need some support around figuring out what boundaries you need and what steps you can take to start to create your own safety. That's a discussion for another day, but one that's important to acknowledge. If you are hoping to have the ability to regulate your nervous system, but you're in an environment that isn't safe, your nervous system's actually doing what it's designed to do to protect you. So we might have to take some extreme measures to get to safety. Today, I'm going to talk about 3 different needs. First one is, what does your nervous system need? So can you ask yourself, am I overwhelmed? Or am I tense? Or am I shut down? If those are true for you, then your needs might sound like, I need space, or I need peace and quiet. I might need rest. I might need someone calm around me whose nervous system I can borrow. This is the one beautiful thing I love about doing in-person events and things like that, because you can borrow somebody else's nervous system that is calm and regulated when you're having a hard time getting there. So a trusted therapist or coach or support group can provide that for you if your spouse is unable to. You might need grounding. What does that look like? You might need to go out and get some fresh air. You might need to connect with your breath, like we talked about last week in the breathwork episode. You might need to get some space where your body and your nervous system actually has a chance to come down closer to calm, grounded, and neutral. So think about that. If you are in an environment where that feels impossible, you might need to take some time by yourself. I'm not saying that means that you have to have a separation or a divorce or anything like that. I'm saying that maybe you're going to need to take some intentional time to go somewhere by yourself where you can create that. That might mean an hour out by yourself. That might mean a weekend away by yourself. That might mean sleeping in separate bedrooms. That might mean asking your spouse to move out. There's a lot of different ways to get that space, and you get to decide what it is that you need in order to create that environment for your nervous system to regulate again so that you can tune into your body. I know a lot of times people get really nervous about a separation because they tend to think that separation is the next step right before divorce. And I actually have a different perspective on it. I think separation can be one of the most helpful things that couples can do because it gives you both an opportunity to get grounded back in your nervous system. So maybe some of you who have had a separation or who are divorced can attest to that, that getting some safe space, sometimes a far away distance physically from your spouse, can be one of the best things to help you regulate your nervous system. So then let's talk about emotional needs. Once we can get tuned into our body, we can regulate our nervous system. What are the emotional needs? Do you need to feel heard? Do you need some validation? Do you need honesty, reassurance, consistency? Those are all valid needs. And if you're not getting that from your spouse, how can you get that from yourself? You might need to call that trusted person or professional that has the capacity to hear what you have to say and what you need to say, to also get that validation about what you're experiencing. If your spouse is not willing to be honest with you, then maybe getting really honest with yourself about what you're seeing or not seeing is important. If you need reassurance, but your partner or your spouse is not willing or able to do that for you, where else can you get reassurance? Can you provide it for yourself? These are things that can really be helpful to talk through with a professional. You might need consistency. And if your spouse is anything but consistent, can you be consistent and show up for yourself on a consistent basis? I'm not saying that feels good if you're trying to stay in a relationship, I know it doesn't, but it can be the thing that helps you move into an empowered place and really step out of any unhealthy cycles, which can be the thing that needs to happen in order to propel change in the dynamic. So if you're still in a relationship and your spouse is not providing those things, can you look at other ways to provide them for yourself? And then let's talk about relational needs only after the first two, only after nervous system and emotional needs. And this is for those of you who are still in your relationship. If you're not still in a relationship, it's okay. This is still applicable for you, especially if you ever want to get in a relationship again in the future, is you might need some boundaries. You might need transparency. You might need accountability, or you need safety in being able to connect. All of those are valid relational needs. And if your partner or your spouse is not able to provide those, that is good information for you to evaluate and assess about the status of the relationship and your ability to stay engaged in it. A lot of times women in betrayal trauma have learned that if I focus on myself, then I might miss something and I might get hurt again. And when that happens, then we tend to minimize our pain or push our needs aside. And we stay in that hyper alert state, hyper alert to his moods, his recovery, what he is or isn't doing, his honesty, trying to check to see if he's being honest. And I want you to know that those are not codependence. That is what we call attachment trauma. And your system is trying to survive connection. So I would just encourage you to have all the compassion in the world for yourself. And how do we start reconnecting with ourselves then? You don't actually start by saying, what do I want to do about this relationship? That needs to come later, in my opinion. You start by asking, what does my body need today? What feels too much for me right now? What would feel stabilizing? What feels unsafe? And as you can tune into what your nervous system and your body is telling you, you'll start to build those bricks of self-trust again. And you might not yet even know the answer as to whether or not you want to stay or whether you need to leave or whether you want to forgive or you want to rebuild. But what you can know right now is what helps you feel more calm, what helps you feel more like yourself, what makes you shut down and what makes you feel tense. And those insights are the doorway back into your own insights and intuition. So I want to just remind you that disconnection is not a failure. It really is protection. It's a protective pause that your body's trying to protect you with. Your body pulled you inward because something on the outside wasn't safe. And so now we get the opportunity to slowly and gently teach our nervous system and our body that you can come back now. And if you're not quite sure where you are, check in the show notes. I added a really simple poll to this episode. And this isn't actually for me. I don't even get the information. It's for you. It just asks what feels hardest when you try to figure out what you need right now. You don't have to explain anything and no one sees your name. It's just a way to pause for a minute and notice where you are. If that feels supportive, you can answer it right now while you're listening or as soon as you're done with this episode. I hope this is helpful for you, and I hope that you'll take one small step into tuning back into what your nervous system and your body need, and one step in that direction of self-trust. I so appreciate you being here with me and allowing me to be just a small part on your healing journey, and hope that you'll be here with me again next week. Thank you for being here with me inside Rooted and Rising Healing. Remember, healing isn't a destination, it's a returning to your truth, to your voice, to the woman you were always meant to be. You have the power to rise at your own pace, in your own way. And when it feels hard, just come back to your breath and remind yourself, still I rise. If this episode spoke to you, I'd love if you shared it with another sister on the journey. And until next time, stay rooted, stay rising. You've got this.